Good evening. This is the Thursday, January 5th, 2022, 3 Planning Commission meeting for the City of South Haven. Call the meeting to order. And Mr. Thompson, if you would establish the quorum by roll, please.
Clark Gruber.
Here.
Larry Heinig.
Here.
Darrell Williams. Michael Neese.
Here.
Amy Nichols.
Here.
Elijah Haney.
Here.
George Sleeper.
Here.
Janice Varney.
Here.
Tim Stegman.
Here. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the agenda as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the agenda as written. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next up, we'll have the approval of the meeting minutes. You can either do these as a group or one at a time if you wish.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for December 1st, 2022 regular meeting and December 1st, 2022 subcommittee workshop.
Second.
It's been moved and supported to approve both the minutes from the regular meeting and the subcommittee workshop. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, I'll go over the Planning Commission comment log. December 5th, Dan Agnello, Social District, 2 public meetings scheduled for the same night. Escrow policy, desired appeal PUD waivers to the ZBA. Next one was 12/8, Dan Agnello, inclusion of written public comments at meetings. Third one, 12/17, Dan Agnello sent excerpt from South Haven Township Board minutes regarding housing PUD approval. Dan Agnello, 12/19, zoning ordinance update comments. 12/29, Mary Hosley, food truck ordinance fails to align with what majority of residents want. 12/29, Dan Agnello, agreement with the 12/29 Hosley email regarding food trucks. Next up, unfinished business, we have none. Other business, item 5, 880, 888 Monroe Boulevard. Kelly?
Thank you. We, as staff, recently received 2 special land use applications to install pools in the lakefront yards at 880 and 888 Monroe. Pools, as you may recall, cannot be permitted on lakefront lots without a special use permit. And waterfront development also requires Harbor Commission review prior to Planning Commission review. So we did go ahead and notice those public hearings for the special use permit, and the reports were prepared for December Harbor Commission and January Planning Commission. Unfortunately, there was no quorum for the December Harbor Commission meeting, and the items will therefore need to be rescheduled for the January 17 Harbor Commission meeting and the February 2nd Planning Commission meeting. So we plan to renotice the public hearings for the special land use applications for the February meeting.
Okay, so the only holdup is because the Harbor Commission hasn't seen it, correct? Okay.
They require that review from Harbor Commission first.
All right, so I guess what we'll do is a motion to postpone until such time as Harbor Commission reviews and sends their review to us, correct?
That will be fine.
That way it doesn't set a date for return,
We'll need to notice the public hearing.
but we have no way of knowing when Harbor Commission will.
We don't. That part of the difficulty in requiring, in the way the scheduling works, is that we need to notice the public hearing prior to the Harbor Commission happening, or require an additional month between.
Because you have to notice it for both them and the planning
We
commission,
don't
correct?
have to publicly notice the Harbor Commission, but because of the publishing dates,
Right,
if we wait for Harbor Commission approval of the item, then we have the month between, so that would place them on the March Planning Commission agenda.
okay.
It'll be up to you, I suppose, your preference at that point. We can notice them for February, or we can wait until after Harbor Commission meets on January 17 and then notice.
Yeah, either way, we got to motion to postpone until such time as the Harbor Commission reviews it, so. But we can't say motion to postpone until our next meeting. It could be a meeting after that.
I'll make a motion to postpone agenda item 5 pending approval by Harbor Commission.
Support, yeah.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, number 6, bylaws.
Thank you. As you're all aware, the Planning Commission briefly reviewed its bylaws, also known as Rules of Procedure, last spring. There was some focus at that time about the amount of time allotted for public comment, but at that time, the group did not make any changes to the document. Since that time, as public interest in the city's meetings has grown, meeting lengths have increased, and after the December meeting, Chairman Stegman contacted staff to discuss the method by which the Planning Commission accepts public comment, as well as the order of business for meetings. At the chairman's recommendation, staff has prepared a revised set of bylaws that propose an amended order of business, which will place public comment at the beginning of the agenda for items on the agenda for which there is no public hearing, and again at the end of the agenda for items not on the agenda. This would mean that the Planning Commission would no longer take public comment after each agenda item unless there was a public hearing specifically scheduled for that item. There are a few other small changes that were made for clarification and formatting that are noted in the staff report. And I do have one additional change that was recommended by the city's attorney after the packet was released. And this change would amend section 4.9B, number 5, which starts with each person shall limit their comments to 5 minutes. And the addition would be, and shall generally be allowed to speak only once per comment period. So that's something that we can discuss a little bit more later when we get there. Staff would recommend that you consider and discuss the amendments proposed by the chair, and if they're agreeable, take action to adopt the amended rules of procedure.
Okay, thank you. Does the commission have any questions regarding what's being proposed before we go into any debate on it? Just any clarifications needed?
I had some comments,
Okay.
and I don't know, we can wait till later or not, but, so under the proposed, I guess, agenda topics, there's a line item 5, which is public hearings, which I understand exists right now, and we clarify that to say to be conducted with each applicable agenda item.
That's what's in parentheses.
Right.
Yeah.
So to me, that was confusing because then when you get to the actual new business or unfinished business, whatever item has a public hearing, are you going to have it during item 5 or are you going to have it during item 6 or 7? It would seem like we could just get rid of item 5 and maybe put something in section 4.9 under hearings that say public hearings will be conducted for the agenda item.
Or you could do 6A and 7A with the public hearings under each one. Is that what you're,
Well-
what you're thinking?
I don't think you would need line item 5 then, right?
Right,
Because 5 is really kind of redundant to what you're going to do under 6 and 7, so everything would get renumbered.
correct. So you'd have 5A and 6A.
Right,
Okay.
right.
That makes sense.
And then to because we've got new business actionable, and then later on, we've got new business discussion, same with unfinished business. It was confusing to me because I didn't know if we were discussing the same new business, or was this new business? So I would, and Kelly kind of clarified this for me, but maybe the what is currently line item 9 and currently line item 10, instead of just saying new business or unfinished business, say unfinished business non-actionable, new business non-actionable, to clarify that these are just different types of,
How about discussion / non-actionable?
yeah, that would
Would that,
work.
okay. Anybody else?
Yes, I have some concern. Let me find the right place here. Under 4.9, 4.9B, item V. I understand the comments that you had, Kelly, to add there. Well, I guess it's the next item, says the chairperson must waive item 5 above in order for a person to speak multiple times. That makes a lot of sense to me, but that doesn't clearly state that the chairman has the authority to waive item 5, item V. I think we need a clear statement there that it probably as part of item V, the chairman may waive this item under the circumstances of item 6, items VI. And I don't use my wording, run that by the attorney and get his wording, but I want it clearly stated that the chairman does have the right to do that. It's certainly implied, but I'm not happy with just it being implied.
That's a good point, and since there's additional clarification being added to that Roman numeral V earlier, you can get rid of all the other stuff. It just says, you can just say the chairperson may waive item V and just stop right there. Because in order for a person to speak multiple times, that's already going to be in V.
Okay, so you would say strike, we're above all the way to times, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
because that way you'd also be clarifying that you're waiving the person speaking multiple times in a single comment session and not for a meeting, which it really doesn't say one or the other right now.
I understand, George. Kelly, can you repeat what Nick wanted included on Roman numeral 5?
and shall generally be allowed to speak once per something.
And shall generally be allowed to speak only once per comment period.
So what do we have right
But
now?
Roman numeral 6 gives an avenue
All right,
where the person could speak twice. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
If the chair allows.
Yeah,
I'm good.
okay. So that's 4 slight amendments, correct? Is that what we're up to? Anything else?
I simply have a comment regarding encouraging public comments. I understand that we went from 3 minutes several years ago to 5 minutes now, so we've increased the time limit. And as I understand, reading through this, we have a public comment at the beginning for the agenda items. I'm thinking of ways where the public can communicate with us and looking at all those ways. Or there's also an opportunity to write comments and submit them ahead of time where we get them. So that's another way to comment. And I have to say that I appreciate those written comments. I find them very helpful when they are provided to us ahead of time because I can be more thoughtful in reading them and applying them to what I am currently reading as far as the agenda goes. Also, individuals will be able to speak at the public meetings, so that's 3. And then public comment on items not on the agenda. So there are basically an extension of time that we have, plus those 4 ways to address the body or the commission.
Mhm.
Am I
There's
missing
actually a
anything?
6th.
Okay, what am I missing?
The commission, let's say there's a topic that's a non-public hearing, but you have a lot of people in the audience.
Yeah.
You could waive this by making a motion to open up the floor to public comment and getting it seconded and having the group agree.
Okay. And maybe there's even a 6th if you were thinking about what we just did with number 6 in terms of the chair may waive or actually waive that item above, and a person could speak multiple times if the chair allows.
Mhm. Anything else for now? No? Okay. Would anybody in the audience wish to speak on this item?
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. First, I'm wondering, does the public hearings of number 5, is that really not redundant? And the goal was to put all the public hearings at the top so that people who are here for the public hearings can speak and leave and not have to wait for them to fall under the unfinished or new business. So that may not be redundant. It may be an efficient way for people to provide public comments. You may want to clarify that. My concern with lumping everything together for public comments where public hearing is not required is that we don't have an ample time to talk about items where there's action. And I appreciate the ability to send in emails and communications, but I also know that everybody's busy, and sometimes we can't provide the written comments much before the meeting. So then, and in fact, there were a couple meetings ago where more than one commissioner commented that, yeah, we got them, but we didn't have time to read them. So submitting written comments really isn't feasible always. It is there, but it's not feasible. I believe there's a lack of clarity with the addition from Nick. One may only speak at one public comment or something. So does that mean that if a public hearing is continued and they spoke before and it's continued because of changes, that we don't get to speak again? I think when public hearings are continued, it's because things are changing. And if things are changing, we should be able to address those changes because we hadn't been able to address those before. Just scrolling through. And that was under the 4.95 B5. So it would be really nice to have that in writing to see exactly what that is and have clarity about what he means by per comment, period. That's not clear, it's not defined. Just going through, that is what comes to the top of my mind. I appreciate trying to balance time, but especially at this stage of our community where there still appears to be distrust and concern about the city council and possibly boards not listening to us. The vision statement says the citizens are to be engaged more. This seems to be stepping back from that. I don't know. I appreciate it, but I would like to see some more guaranteed and not at the discretion of the chair. No disrespect to you, sir. But to allow us to speak on actions where the board is going to be voting regardless of a public hearing. Thank you.
And 1 second, Dan, I will comment. We did have a public hearing that was held over, and when we opened again, I did let everybody comment again. I think that's been the practice, so.
And
I think what she's wondering is if that we could codify that.
Yeah,
Somehow.
I understand.
Yeah, Dan Agnello, 964 Everett Parkway. I didn't realize I gave you 4 Christmas presents in December, but if you're inundated, I'm sorry. But I want to emphasize what Mary said, and this came out during the Trailside Phase 2, where they presented one item and we got to comment on it. Then when they revised it, you weren't here, by the way, and we were not allowed to comment on it. And then I think by the 3rd or 4th time we were allowed to comment because the thing kept changing and we were not allowed to comment because there was only, I think Nick was here and we only allowed to comment I think it was the first time. I think we got that straightened out now, but I'd like to see it more specific. What is Nick saying about per period? Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Mike Campbell, 216 Erie Street. I think it's kind of an optics issue that you're dealing with here, because on the one hand, you say interest in public meetings in the city has grown and the overall length of meetings is increasing, so now we're going to limit the amount of time people get to speak. It doesn't really go together. I would suggest that instead of having a lump area where people talk about things that aren't subject to public hearings, but are on the agenda, simply have those items where there's action going to be taken, but without a public hearing, allow a public comment, but maybe limit it. Maybe it's 2 minutes, maybe it's 3 minutes, but not the full 5 minutes. People can actually get their comments in their head and be able to communicate them within a shorter period of time, and thus your total amount of time is going to decrease. But I think it's important for people to be able to speak about each item at the time the item is being talked about. Because if you have the comments at the beginning and you have a longer meeting, I would like to wager how many people are on the board are going to remember the comments that were made at the beginning of the meeting about a specific agenda item. So maybe think of an alternative like having a shorter amount of time for the non-hearing items that are on the agenda where action is required. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's a good point, and when I was talking to staff, that brought up the fact, last time we talked about this, the majority, not everybody on this commission voted to keep 5 minutes. So that's why that wasn't even considered in this rewrite, so.
I think the benefit that this, the way we've got it, that you're going to propose, I've seen many communities where the public hearings are all done together and then that's it.
Yeah.
So I think allowing our public hearing comment to happen at the public hearing period is more beneficial next to those that we need. So I think that's an improvement over many of the other communities.
We can talk about that more. So
I actually,
I think we have one more comment, correct? Did you want to speak? No. Oh, okay. So that's it for audience for now? Okay, so, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
the comments were good. Reading through the packet and taking a look at it, my impressions were just, first of all, it's workflow improvement. I thought actually, and I really appreciate the work that Tim did to take a look at this and say, how do we improve the workflow, still be productive? And I actually saw it as increasing input, not limiting public input. It actually gives Tim the trigger to say, and not Tim, Tim's very careful in my conversations with him to say, it's not about Tim, it's the chairman will have the authority to pull that trigger at any point, say, we need more discussion on this from the public. So I actually think that this new structure, if you will, process, let me call it that, workflow, actually it allows us to hear more from the public. I am sensitive, and I appreciate the fact that if we are having our normal 4-hour meetings, which tonight won't be one of them, if we're having our normal 4-hour meetings, it's wonderful for people to be able to state their business and get out of here. I think that's very sensitive to our residents, and I think a proper way to do business. I'm going to add one small thing that's really not a bylaw, but it is, you all know me. I wish we would change the way we ask people to come up and give their name and address. I prefer that we say your name and home address. It's become quite frequent that people are giving addresses at the podium where there's no residents there. And businesses are not constituents. Your business address, I would welcome the person to offer their opinion and say, I own the business at X address. But as a commissioner, I need context, and I need to know when that speaker's speaking, whether they're speaking as a resident, whether they're speaking as a business owner, non-resident, whether they're speaking as any interested person that just happens to show up at our meetings. So I just would like to have that one small change. I don't think that limits anybody's ability to offer comments. Anybody can still walk in off the street and comment in public, but it's nice for us to have that context.
Does anybody else have any similar thoughts on what Mike just said? Is it a concern?
I like the new process because it gives multiple opportunities throughout our meeting to have continuous comment from the public. And I do believe that the folks on this board, if they hear something at 7:15, they will remember it at 8:15. So I think that's not an issue. Folks are up here really work hard to be prepared when they get here, and we're ready to do the work of the city when we do come here. So I think this process will help us do that better, and I do like your suggestion, Mike. I think that makes a lot of sense. It gives us context.
I guess I'll just give a counterpoint to Mike's suggestion. And sometimes, even though a person may be giving the address of a business instead of their home address, to me, if if they're a stakeholder as a business owner, to me, that doesn't necessarily lessen the input that they can provide. So I'm okay, whatever they want to state as their address, if it's germane to what we're talking about.
Yeah, I thought about that, George, and let me clarify my comments. When I say provides me context, if they're a business owner and they're talking about zoning issues that applies to their business, to the downtown, to CBD, I'm all ears. But if they're a business owner that wants to talk to me about how to zone our neighborhoods, I'm not going to listen to their comments with much thought. You know, I don't have the right to go down into their stores and rearrange it the way I think it should be. They don't have the right to tell us how our neighborhood should be. Now, they do have a right to share their opinions, and we'll take them into account. But I got to tell you, as a commissioner, even when they don't say what their home address is, I'm looking it up. Because I want to know what their point of view is and how they're presenting their information. Opinions are not fact. And we need to have the best set of facts we can, and we need to have the proper context when we're making decisions about our neighborhoods and about our businesses. So I saw a difference there. I'm not trying to limit their input by any means,
I guess I have less of a problem if somebody gives their business address. We will probably know it's a business, and we can still listen and work through it the way you internally work through it the way you just mentioned you would. And we're still going to know it's a business address typically when they give it to us.
But our residents that are in attendance or watching on TV don't.
Well,
They have a right to know the standing that the speaker has in the community. We're the city planning commission, not the regional planning commission, not the township planning commission.
okay, but we're still listening to them.
Yeah, I'm
Still
struggling
listening
to find
to you. Yeah.
in the last 2 years I've been doing this, to find someone that spoke that I didn't know what they were representing. I'm trying to, put this in some context. And that I know Mary Hosley's home address by heart, but, I know when people are businesses, so I'm just kind of struggling to understand why this is
Well, the
a
reason
struggle for you.
am leaning towards Mike on this particular situation, it's just about context. It's just about, okay, knowing that you have a business and you're standing up there at the podium speaking on a subject, what's wrong with them saying, my business is at such and such address, and then give their comment? I don't see that as an issue, because we're asking the same thing out of a resident. When we ask them to come up and give their address, we're asking them to give their address of their residence. So if it's a business and not a residence, what's wrong with them saying that it's a business?
Or why ask them their address at all?
Yeah, I mean, we're asking it out of our homeowners.
We're asking anybody that makes a public comment.
Does staff have any legal opinion on this part of the agenda ask?
Yeah, the Open Meetings Act does allow boards the opportunity to establish rules for public comment. And I think from a legal standpoint, could we do this? Yes, but is it necessary? Maybe not. The address given is an identifier. It can help you as commissioners determine the place a person is coming from with their comments, whether they're a business owner, whether they reside in the city, whether they don't reside in the city. But I don't think as a commission we're likely to prevent someone from speaking because they don't live in the city. So, is it necessary to take a step further and require one address over another? I'm not sure that it is. I'm not sure that I would recommend that.
I'll give it one more shot, and obviously I'm going to live with the will of the commission here. As you all know, I'm not unaccustomed to sticking my foot in my mouth, but we're going to be facing contentious issues next year, and it's largely going to be around short-term vacation rentals.
Next year?
This year.
Oh.
This year.
We're in that year.
You opened the meeting, it was 2022, Tim, so I'm moving it to 2023. And context is going to be important when our speakers are commenting on opinions about our short-term vacation rental policies, whether they are a resident, whether they are a short-term vacation owner who lives elsewhere, whether a business that chooses to live elsewhere. I'll be plain with you. My bias is that we have a resident-centric government. That's who put us here. Now, I know we were appointed, but we are appointed under the authority of the voters that elected the council and the mayor that selected us. So it's important to me to separate out. That doesn't mean I don't take into account, my goodness, I'm going to listen to the business owners up and down all day on central business district issues, on issues that affect their business directly. But I'm not going to listen to them when they suggest that I ought to have a higher density of STRs in my neighborhood when they choose to live elsewhere.
I guess nothing would prevent you from asking that secondary question of the individual when they give an address if you are aware it's a business.
And I will do so.
So I guess at this point, if this commission wants to change the rule, you'd have to make a motion and get it supported, and we could vote on it. Otherwise, we'll leave it as is.
Yeah, I think, again, I'm not doing Robert's Rules of Orders here, but I think Clark gave a good suggestion, and I'll just follow that path. When everyone comes up to speak, just know, commissioners, one of the things that I'm going to do when they step up there is ask them, what's their home resident address?
Then you have to do that through the chair, you know.
Yeah, but he's, well, that's my point, though, Tim.
Okay.
Larry, about that authority of the chair thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Larry a lot this evening. He was really throwing it my way.
Can I just weigh in on what Mike said before
Yeah.
this address issue was about the number of opportunities to speak? And I, too, like Janice, was counting, saying, oh, my gosh, you know, we've got this, and you've got this, and you've got this. And I like that they're a little more timely with the things that are happening. Not that I'm the one that might forget something said at 7:10 or when it was 9 o'clock, but these 10 o'clock meetings get a little late. So I like the fact that things are a little more timely when they're commenting.
Probably one thing we haven't discussed, I think by the Public Act, technically, we're only required to have the public hearing. So a lot of the other discussion is our choice.
Right.
Correct.
That's correct, right?
Public hearings are required and generally a public comment period.
Right.
So we've opened it up to a comment period on both items on the agenda
Yeah.
and items off the agenda.
And that's why I loved it, Tim. That's why I thought it was good work done by you. It provided a workflow that allowed us to do that.
And probably the largest segment for this rewrite for me is the separation of actionable and the discussion non-actionable. And I don't know how many of you pay attention to the city council meetings, but in the recent past, they've seemed to send us a lot of nebulous, not very finite items that wind up taking a ton of time to discuss. And I think by reordering this, staff is able to bring some of these discussion items. And then from there, whether we can do that at the end of our regular business and figure it out, or if we're saying, you know, this one's going to take a while, we have 9 people on this commission. And can we make, like we're doing with the fire pit, can we have some smaller committees that maybe can even meet during the day to get to some more detail before it comes back to the whole body? And maybe we can be more productive and, you know, do a couple things at once, might be fire pit and something else. And then finally get it distilled down and come back to the whole body to discuss it. And I think that's how we're going to be able to be much, much more effective going through this year. Because after looking at the last council meeting the other night, I really think we got to protect ourselves and be as effective with our time when we are together. Because we only meet once a month. They meet twice a month. Mm-hmm. So they have an advantage on us on that, too. So, and we've scheduled some special meetings, but I think this going forward will really help us achieve a lot more.
And Tim, as you were saying, I think having these subcommittees is very helpful because it does move some of our action items forward that otherwise would linger for a very long time, and sometimes we forget about them because they are lingering too long.
Right.
So if we could, I agree, it's a more efficient way of handling it. I do have a question, however, for staff regarding, I was listening to Mr. Campbell's comments, and, maybe going down to 2 minutes or something, so it's closer to the actionable item that we will be discussing or are discussing. How would we deal with site plan reviews? Because I know a lot of times a representative will come up with their site plan review, and then the public will speak before but really hasn't heard the developer give his presentation. And then we discuss it, but they didn't have the benefit of listening to the developer or the representative talk about the site plan review and any changes that may have been made in its presentation. So how do we give the public an opportunity to respond to anything like that? Because they wouldn't have that information. It comes out at the meeting.
I think, as the chair previously mentioned, if a situation like that occurs, through the chair, members of the Planning Commission would seek a motion to open the floor back up to public comment.
Okay, so there's a mechanism for that.
There is
Because
a
I think that's
mechanism.
very important. If something is being said to the contrary, or what we didn't expect, or they didn't know about, the public didn't know about, that they have a time to comment on that particular item.
And it's probably important to note, even though it's not in our bylaws, and it depends on the particular chairman, and you guys have been here long enough, and I think you understand the process I take, which is we introduce the agenda item. Now, unlike, and I'll use city council as an example, where they rush, I don't even say rush, their procedure is to automatically do a motion. And I don't particularly like that, because maybe after some of the discussion, the motion would have been different. So what we do, we introduce the item, staff will give you an overview of the item, and then usually we'll bring up the applicant to discuss. Well, no, let me take that back. So I introduce it, staff talks about it, and then I ask the commission whether they have any questions about any particular item for the staff, more procedural. And then we bring up the applicant, and they'll discuss. And then usually, then we'll go into the public comment, and then we come back to the board for a discussion and a motion. That's how I prefer to do it. And that's pretty much how we followed it.
And that doesn't need to be outlined in anything we're doing here, because that's up to the chair.
It's up to the chair. Now, you could have a chair that says, as soon as the item's introduced, you make a motion, and then staff talks about it, and then you bring up. And that's another way to
I
do
like
it.
what you're saying. I just was wondering if it needed to be included in what we are doing here, or.
I think you kind of tie the hand, because maybe Larry, if I'm not here, maybe he wants to do it a touch different.
I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that the public does have that opportunity if things change or there's more information brought forward.
Well, and like I said, the commission can always override the chair. You could say, I move that we have more public comment, and you get somebody to support it and a majority to vote for it. You can do that.
And I think that having the public hearings attached to the items
Individually, yes.
individually as opposed to upfront is going to help
Good.
create this type of interaction that is needed at the public hearing decision versus some of these other items that don't necessarily need a comment period for every single one.
Or if you think it does, it can get opened up.
It could be
There's
opened
a
up.
possibility. Yeah.
So we have that flexibility.
Yeah.
No, I think this is a positive in the right direction.
Okay, so unless there's further discussion on this, we can do a motion with the 4 amendments. I think that's what we're at for. And then probably, I would actually recommend that we have staff bring that back at our next meeting, and we just review it one more time, just to be sure, before we implement.
We don't need a motion.
Yeah.
Well, we still need a motion for staff to make the amendments.
Instruct staff.
Well, okay.
I'm good with instruction.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we're going to have it all, and we've got the form. Now, are we going to deal with those amendments, or just put that into the final draft, and then
Put
bring
it
that
in.
draft to a review, and then we can make a decision?
Put it into the final unless,
I think that's
unless
good.
there's strong opposition, then we can kind of pick it apart right here. But I think everything that was said was pretty agreeable.
That sounds like a good plan.
Okay.
That way, too, maybe Nick can have a final look at what we're
I agree.
put together in case there's any
Make sure we got it.
suggestions.
Okay?
So we'll bring back a final copy next meeting
Yes.
under old business.
Yeah.
Or unfinished business.
Right. We just spent 45 minutes about discussing how we're going to discuss things,
That new workflow is working out really well.
isn't it?
Workflow is great. Saves us so much time.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
We'll move on then. The 2022, not 2023, because we're talking about last year's annual report.
We are, yes. The Michigan Planning Enabling Act requires a written report to be prepared for the legislative body, which is the city council here, that summarizes our planning and development activity for the previous year. And the chairman covered much of this activity with his remarks at the last meeting, but staff has prepared the official 2022 report for your review and approval to be forwarded on to the city council. I won't read the whole report, but I wanted to just provide a couple of highlights. So during 2022, the Planning Commission conducted 12 regular meetings, so none were canceled due to lack of business. 1 special meeting, 2 subcommittee workshop meetings. We discussed shoreline protection as well as fire pits and fireplaces and barbecues. And there was 1 joint workshop meeting with South Haven Charter Township where there was a presentation given about affordable housing from Housing Next, and that's Ryan Kilpatrick's group. We reviewed ordinance amendments for food trucks, for site plan submittal requirements, for permanent outdoor fireplace structures, and for building height. And quite a few of these items are unfinished and will be back before this group during 2023. We reviewed PUD projects, including the Overton development and amendments for the Harbor Club and Trailside developments. Special land use reviews included Countryside Motors, several pools along Monroe Boulevard, a low-speed electric vehicle dealership, and a home-based daycare on Hubbard. And site plan reviews included the Great Lakes Eye Care facility on Broadway, the Consumers Credit Union building proposed for Phoenix, a boat hoist at Piers End Cove, and expansions for 3 of our industrial employers, which were Revere, W.R. Grace, and Spencer Manufacturing. So in addition to the Planning Commission activity, we provided a review of the 2022 Zoning Board of Appeals activity. This seems to have been done historically, so we just continued that practice. So the ZBA met 7 times for regular meetings and looked at 6 applications for dimensional or non-use variances, 2 interpretation applications, and 1 appeal application. The ZBA also heard presentations regarding ZBA roles and responsibilities from MSU Extension and a presentation from the city attorney on ZBA jurisdiction and fees and escrows. So overall, 2022 was busy and productive. We're looking forward to more of the same in 2023. We'll continue our comprehensive zoning ordinance update. We're looking forward to starting a master plan review and update, continuing some shoreline protection efforts. We anticipate some additional development in the downtown and at the Overton site. And I just want to say to all of you, we truly appreciate you. You're volunteering your time, you're spending time at home reviewing packets and site plans and hundreds of pages for every meeting. And your efforts are truly appreciated, and I'm really glad that you've all signed on for another year. So that's it from me.
Okay, any questions about this report? No?
Well organized.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only question I had is that we had some discussions on the building heights that we never really finished up in 2022. I was just wondering when is that going to come back here, do you think?
Yes, we did not finish that item. I do anticipate bringing that back soon. I'm thinking February or March. The February agenda is potentially very full, but.
And you'll be gone, right?
It'll be full, but it won't be tall.
And there's some other things like the 0 or 10-foot setback in the CBD. We still need to address that, and there's a little list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll be busy.
Okay. Anybody in the public want to talk about this report?
The kids are playing with their phones.
Okay. Thank you for putting this together, even though I think it's a requirement, you have to put this together. But, yeah, it's quite comprehensive. And Larry, you're kind of lucky on this second committee you're on. 7 meetings and 5 were canceled due to lack of business.
But one of them went twice as long as it should have, so.
I remember that.
Still not enough.
My neighbor won't let me forget that.
Yeah. All right, unless there's anything else, we'll do a motion to, how do we want to word this one? A motion to accept and forward?
Yes, that sounds good.
I make a motion to accept the annual report for 2022 and forward it to the city council.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Okay, public comment period. Citizens in the audience may address the planning commission regarding items not on the agenda.
Dan Agnello, 946 Everett Parkway. Is that right, Mike?
It is, Dan.
It's wrong, 964. You said you knew my address by heart.
I can't help it if you've got dyslexia, Dan.
I know. I just want to thank, first of all, you guys do a lot of hard work, and it's volunteers, and you guys do a great job. I made some comments earlier, you guys saw at the emails, but the committee that's working on redoing the ordinances has one person that's either not on staff or city council or planning commission or whatever. And, you know, there's a lot of things in our ordinances, and that a lot of people are saying that these things are not being enforced, and I would think that you would have 3 or 4 people in the general public on that committee, okay? In fact, I made the comment, there was nobody in the general public on that committee, and Griffin corrected me, but the meeting minutes didn't say Mary McManus was not present. So as far as me looking at the minutes, it said there's nobody in the general public. I think these are things that are so important, these ordinances, we got to streamline them, we've got to make sure the references go back and forth and whatever. So maybe it should be considered right now, I don't know. And the public had no input other than that one person, and there's a lot of changes that have to be made, like I said. My main concern was, first of all, I got to say that my comments regard to PUDs and STRs are my own comments, and there's a reason I have to say that. I'm not going to go into it, but they made the changes already to all the PUD section. That section is pretty much done as far as the committee is concerned. That's what it said in the last report. But There's no changes in the STR. Now, I don't think any of you people live in the PUD. If you do, then you know where I'm coming from. Okay, I'm right on the trail, which is great. I see skiers going by, bikers, whatever, walkers, walking your dog, whatever. But I really don't want to see duplexes 10 feet apart. I brought this thing up about 300, 306 Erie. You go over there, you'll see that the roofs are this far apart because they got a 7 or 8 foot setback, okay? And then also on the STR thing, nothing was changed as far as the ratio or the number. Like right now, I told you this, we've got, I think, 45 or 50% of the houses in Trailside Phase 1 are rentals, okay? I'm the only full-time resident there, and there's another family that's got a long-term rental. That's it. The rest of all the other people are seasonal. And there's no way to reduce that. There's no way to have any say on that. Because in Phase 2, Everett Park LLC is going to open up to STRs, okay? But the biggest problem is, and I brought this up before, is the ordinance has been reviewed and changed and said, okay, once the Planning Commission and the City Council approve a PUD, you cannot go to the ZBA. I said this before, and I'm going to say it again. That's wrong. Okay, we should be able to appeal it, but we're going to pay our $300 or $1,500. I don't care. If I have to ask my wife for some money for the budget because we want to fight the setback, I'll do it if I have to pay $1,500. But I have no recourse. I can't do anything unless I hire a lawyer for $10,000, $15,000. I'm going to see duplexes across the street from me 10 feet apart with a, just like I said before on Erie, with a 1 or 2 foot overhang. The house is going to be right next to each other. And it's going to look like I don't know, it's going to look like they're just stacked on top of each other. And we have no recourse. That should be removed, okay? Now, she told me that it was consistent with the Zoning Enabling Act. It is. The Zoning Enabling Act says it's up to the city to make their decision on what they want to do in that, okay? And that they said, okay, you can't do it. That's wrong. You guys do a great job, but if you guys make a mistake, I can go over any other item. I can go to ZBA, pay my $300, apply, give 8 copies or whatever, and I can go appeal it. Thank you. But gee, if it's a PUD, you can't do that. I mean, PUDs are great. They have a lot more things that they can do, but they have way too much power. You know, the citizens, they have no say in it. What do they want to do? The PUD does it, okay? Now, you may not think so, but from our standpoint, again, I have to agree with Mike. You've got to turn this whole thing around. You, the planning, city council, and everything, make this a citizen-centric city, not PUDs, not businesses, not whatever. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So do I not have to give my address? Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. I want to add to Dan's comments with regard to the PUDs. So part of the whole PUD process is making sure that the benefit of the PUD is met. And the whole benefit of the PUD is to provide price points, to provide a spectrum of home prices to allow people to enter the market, the home market. But with PUDs being completely excluded from the cap, such that every single home in the PUD can be a business STR, that defeats that whole purpose of what a PUD exists for. So, and I've raised this with every PUD review, and it has not been addressed. And I would really encourage this board to start addressing that in the PUD approvals. Because without it being addressed, we are not getting the homes that we need for year-round residents. I would also like to know, so we have the workshops, and thank you, Kelly or Luke or whoever put the meeting dates for the meeting earlier today, and also the houseboat meeting for the 4th Tuesday. But I don't see anything with regard to shoreline, so I was wondering when that next workshop was going to be. And I also, these workshops don't usually have an agenda packet, and there are always presentations there's frequently material put up on the board during the presentation, so it would be nice if those would if we could just agree that all those would be put in minutes. I don't think the slides from the very first, from the fire pit meeting 2 meetings ago have yet been put online. And I know that there was a chart earlier today. And then last but not least, my fiscally, cognizant taxpayer hat comes on. You know, I was at the fire pit meeting, and I'm at this meeting, and I've noticed that Brad is here as a consultant that we pay, and he hasn't spoken at anything, and I was just curious, what criteria are used for when we do or don't have a consultant at these meetings? Because, you know, taxpayers deserve to have accountability, so thank you.
And I think Brad's here a lot of times because he's helping draft the language, right? Yeah.
Joe Wilkins, 811 Indiana Street. I want to first start by apologizing for my attire. I know I'm overdressed. I was at a funeral earlier and had to tend to family, so.
You look fine to me.
Bishop, you look great.
First time speaking before this committee, but I have some concern with the latest options that could be sent to the planning for review as part of the proposed changes to the current food truck ordinance, which started out with a letter being sent to City Council, but with recent options, let me start by addressing several concerns that I have with the letter to the best of my knowledge. 11 restaurant owners co-signed on a letter to the City Council complaining about food trucks being downtown at all. In this letter, they even went as far as expressing concerns with food trucks being allowed downtown as part of the Blueberry Festival and special events. I quote, "First and foremost, none of us are against food trucks in our community. The issue is where you put those food trucks," unquote. They gave a litany of reasons why. It was clear in their letter that they firmly disagree with having any food trucks in the downtown CBD area. They did not see the need for them. I quote, "One of the major complaints we hear people talking about is that our downtown does not have enough restaurants to support the amount of people that flow or that flood our community. I think we all would disagree with that statement," unquote. Of course, this position has been changed since their initial letter. Point number 2, they complained that the food trucks don't have the overhead costs and staffing issues that restaurants have. For example, labor costs, etc. They complained about the strain that COVID has placed on their businesses cost-wise and not being able to get and keep workers. But now I guess they can afford to purchase more food, staff more workers to run a food truck. This negates their previous position of concern. They suggested point 3, having food trucks at our local parks and beaches, which I believe they knew would never happen. But now they want the right to have them downtown as long as public is not allowed to have their food trucks in the CBD area of downtown. In my opinion, the option submitted supports their desire to block fair competition. It is clear that if a public owner does not own property downtown with enough parking to meet the space requirement, that pretty much rules out anybody else having a truck downtown except a restaurant owner. In my opinion, that is very unfair. If the owners are allowed to have them, there should be a spot for public owners to occupy as well. When it first came up and some of the council members pushed to support the local restaurant, the business owners, I was behind it 100%. Let's not put food trucks down Main Street, Phoenix at all. I was behind it 100%. And then before the next meeting came around, you had restaurant owners that came, well, we have a license, we want to be able to put a truck behind our restaurant. That is not fair. In this letter, they talked about having fairness and not having a problem with competition, and I quote, "Competitions make us better, but it's clear now that it only applies when the restaurant owners, have the upper hand and can set the rules on who can play, where they can play, and how long they can play. Fair business competition is a free market where all the players operate on a level playing field. To pass what is now being proposed as an option by the restaurant owners, to me, it gives the owners a monopoly. It gives them power over the food truck business in South Haven. Me, myself, I purchased a commercial food truck, and I've been in Bangor for 6 years because of the restrictions in this area. As a church that has been impacted by COVID as well, You hear restaurant owners talk about how COVID impacted them, but nobody talks about how churches have been impacted. And yet they have restriction with this latest ordinance. There is a restriction on churches. Well, we use our truck as a fundraiser. So my time is running out, but to me, to pass those options is clearly stating or allowing the business owners, the local restaurants, who at first, their argument was, we don't want trucks downtown. Now, they've done a 180. As long as we have spot in our back parking lot, we want to be able to put trucks there. But no one else can put trucks there unless they have property. Unless you go through the business owner to try to rent a spot, that's not going to happen. So I'm asking this planning to consider, when if this come up before you, make it fair to all entrepreneurs that would like to have a business here in South Haven that does not have the brick and mortar, places to serve, but they do have trucks, commercial trucks. They spend a lot of money to run. Give them the option to serve downtown too. If not, keep everybody downtown and put a park somewhere outside of downtown. That's my position on that. Thank you.
Anything else? I think that's everybody in the audience. Okay.
I have a question of staff. What is the status of the food truck ordinance?
That seems like a loaded question.
No.
I anticipate that some text will be sent back to the Planning Commission for review prior to council approval because our zoning ordinance requires that.
But city council keeps postponing it. They haven't made any decisions on it, so it's going to be a while. It's in their hands.
Not February.
No.
No, not that amazing document that we gave them, no.
No, watch the last meeting, you'll see.
Well, I have a Zoom meeting every Monday night, so I have a problem watching city
It was
council.
on Tuesday. They skipped Monday night.
Oh.
And I have a question regarding the shoreline subcommittee. Is that meeting, will it be meeting?
There has not been another meeting scheduled for that subcommittee. You might remember we had one meeting and had a presentation from Edgewater, and then we have submitted a grant application, a coastal grant application that we're waiting to find out if that's funded or not, and I anticipate that committee becoming more active when we know more about the grant.
Yeah, if we can get more funding.
Yeah, and when do we anticipate hearing if we're successful?
I don't have the answer to that right off the top of my head, but I can find out and get back to you.
Usually like April with those, I think.
I feel like it's spring, summer.
Yeah. Because that's part of what, coastal management? Is that money
Yes.
coming from
There
there?
were two slightly separate funding sources, and I know Griffin was working on those grants and has more of the details than I do about the timelines.
Well, we'll find out, Janice.
Yep.
That particular work fits in nicely with the upcoming work on the master plan and not a
Yes.
lot of the other things that we're buried under right now. So it's not on the front burner this time.
It's not backburnered, but it's not immediately.
It's not been
front-burnered.
forgotten, for sure.
Okay, anything else from staff? Luke, anything? Yeah.
I've got a couple extra comments, if
Okay.
that's all right.
Yeah.
I did want to mention, prior to this meeting, our fire pit subcommittee met. I feel like we got some good feedback from the subcommittee and from members of the public who attended. And we will meet again January 26th at 4:30. Does that sound correct? And I'll just remind everybody, we had another lighter agenda this month, but I don't expect that to be a trend that continues as we move into February.
See Amy reinforced again.
No, I'm telling you.
Anything, Brad, you want to? Okay. Well, let's see, we'll start with Larry.
Looking forward to another good year with all of you good folk.
Oh, I was just thinking, when we talked about subcommittees, That's even another opportunity.
Make sure you use your mic.
Yes, that's also another opportunity for the public to comment is during those subcommittee meetings.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're up to 7. I'm counting.
Thank you, Janice.
So at the city council meeting on Tuesday of this week, the topic of food trucks came up, and there really was a light attendance at the city council meeting, and so they really couldn't come to any kind of consensus on what to send us. So I think there's going to be more discussion at a future city council meeting, and I know my goal is when that does come back to planning commission, city council has some clear guidance on what we want this committee to do, so that we're not into the situation of sending it back to city council and then not hitting the mark, and then having it come back to us again, so. That's it.
And when you guys do talk about that, George, if you would, please bring up the definition of a food truck and really zero in on that. And I'd like to talk to you about that later, exactly.
The concern about whether it's a food truck or a food trailer.
Yeah, motorized, self-propelled or not, and whether it's a kitchen in it or if it's a service window and the food comes from somewhere else. And just some of those classifications I think really need to be ironed out, but we can talk about that later. So, well, Mike?
Just thanks to all of you. Last year was a good year. We did a lot of good work, a lot of long hours. Federal law requires time and a half after 4 hours, folks, so just keep that in mind.
So that means you get a bottle and a half of water?
You got that right. You got that right. Anyways, I am looking forward to next year, and I do appreciate staff. You guys have always been great. Brad, I appreciate your knowledge and your wisdom in helping us through all of this. I think 2023 is going to be a bang year, folks. I think if you thought 2022 was busy, my gut tells me and my crystal ball says, hold on, folks. It's an election year. Lots of things going on in the city.
Margie?
I really like the processes that you put in place. So I think it's going to help us have the right discussions at the right time in the right space. So I'm looking forward to it, especially since I think it's going to help us with the large agendas that we'll have moving forward. So again, thanks staff for all you do. Appreciate you guys, and I'm enjoying being with the folks on this commission. It's been great.
Happy New Year. I took the chance to text one of those Harbor Commission members that I know, and he is off and will be home. So they will have at least one more person towards the quorum. So I hope that that moves on the next, and we get to have those on the next meeting. Other than that, no, it was a great year. I'm looking forward to this year. So thanks.
Yeah, Tuesday night, there was only 4 council members, and I think that was really hard to do good business with 4 council members. You did a nice recap. What we talked about today was, as a group, was separating out barbecue from fire pits and fireplaces, and then put together some direction with regards to fuel sources and distances. And I think staff is going to be able to then take that and give us something. So when we do present to everyone, hopefully we've got something pretty good that won't take us long to get to council. Additionally, I will not be here for the February meeting. I will be out of state. So if you have the opportunity to make a motion to excuse, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
That's it.
Who's going to remember that one?
I think that's something we need to look at, because I do appreciate we did get a phone call and a notice, that Daryl was not going to be able to make, and I think that's very helpful to have that up front for our meetings.
Right.
So, and I look forward to March or April running our meetings under a new format. I don't know how long that process is going to take, but I think that's a positive. to help us get through that busy schedule.
Okay, all right, very good. So, what do I need to talk about? One thing I do want to say about staff is their job is to really facilitate actions city council takes. And so a lot of times when things come to us, we're trying to do that too, but I think sometimes we lose sight and don't think ahead, where if we do this, what happens later on? And so I think we need to kind of keep that in the back of our minds when we're making decisions. If we do this, what happens later on with this? Because that's really not staff's job to be the crystal ball, because it's, how do I want to say it? If they did that, they could say something that's out of whack and kind of actually get in trouble for it. So we can kind of get away with the fortune telling, and I think we should do that on some of these items that come up. And I could be more explicit when we get into those items, but food trucks is one of them, definitions. I think it's a bigger item than we've been dealing with. It's been kind of small and finite, where I think it's spread out a lot more if you step back and look at all the ramifications of what a trailer is. So I'll leave it at that for that one. Next up, we are reviewing ordinances, and you can look at the Code of Ordinances on the website, but you can also ask staff if you want a hard copy. And I only say that because I think it's a good idea, even though it's a ponderous tome to review. This is probably the time this winter, where you got a couple months and take it section by section and actually reread it. That way you'll have some memory recall when Brad starts bringing us the items again. And so just a review of it, the whole thing would probably be well placed. Motions, and I don't often get to talk to you guys about motions we make, but it's pretty simple. The motions you've seen, but the other ones we use commonly are a motion to amend. You know how that works, and motion to strike language. And if it's a complicated motion you see coming up, and you know this before the meeting, if you can write it down ahead of time, and it makes it easier for us to work through it if you really have strong convictions on a motion being made, rather than trying to do it here by the seat of your pants. Sometimes the translation gets lost. So, and if you write it up, you can even send it to staff ahead of time, have them copy it, and you can distribute it to everybody up here so you can see it, or they can put it up on the screen. So I think that's it. And the motion, probably the biggest one, is you can motion to table, but what that means is we'll pick it up again later in the agenda the same evening. A motion to postpone pushes it off to the next meeting, or if you do a motion to postpone till a certain date, okay? So we want to keep that in mind. That little pet peeve is the motion to table when it doesn't. And if you ever have any questions, this is the book, Robert's Rules of Order. But out of all these pages, we only use about 3 without getting into the weeds. We don't operate that tight. I think that was it. I just wanted to take this time to review that, how we do business, and what kind of motions are most common, and that's what we'll look at using going forward. So with that, Happy New Year. Glad everybody's back. Hopefully Daryl will watch this meeting on recorded so you can stay up to speed. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved to adjourn. Any other discussion?
This is
Seeing
not,
none, all
I'm
in
going to
favor?
make a motion to table it, I'll tell you that.
No. Don't do that. So all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Meeting is closed.
I was going to get us